Hello, and once again, it's Mike. Welcome to my shop. This is my face, and I'm going to start this video off a little bit differently before I jump into the build. What real parts means is they're the original parts used by the production companies during the making of the film for the on-screen props that are oftentimes iconic. And I love hunting down what those old parts were, finding them, sourcing them, and then walking through the process of how it was made, in some cases using the original methods from the period, but oftentimes using more modern methods because it's just more practical for me. And sort of telling the story of how the prop came into be and what its point was. But do enjoy. I hope that someone takes some lessons from these and maybe learns a thing or two, or is inspired to try and make their own props, because movie magic has been something I've been enthralled with since I was a little boy, and still am today. And this hobby of prop making, I've been doing this for many, many years, and just now starting to share it with people. So sit back, relax, enjoy. Thank you very much. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Liam Neeson's character, Qui Gon Jinn, while on Tatooine, uses a little communicator, that little guy right there. There's a couple other scenes where it's seen in. It's just a little communicator that he uses to speak to the crew on board the ship from Naboo. I can't remember the name of it. But that little handheld prop right there, that is actually made from a rather unexpected source. It's made from this. The Gillette Sensor XL for women. From 1996, as a matter of fact. And that is no joke. That is actually what that's made from. And this is obviously brand new in the package. This is a somewhat sought after collector's item in the real parts collecting community, because they're not exactly common, and nobody really kept them around because they were more or less disposable. Not disposable razors, but more or less that. And they were quickly superseded by more advanced models of shaving equipment. I have to apologize. I had been trying to do one video a week, and it wasn't feasible. So I had to step back a little bit on that, and my intention now is to do one every 2 weeks. And a lot of the reasoning for that comes about because of this. This is an APH-6 Bravo, a U.S. Navy flight helmet from the Vietnam War that I'm converting into an X-Wing pilot's helmet, and this is taking quite a while, and that's sort of delayed a bunch of stuff. So I'm doing this shorter video about the communicator from the Phantom Menace, just to sort of make up for that. So I apologize for the delay in the videos. So now, while this is a somewhat rare item, and as with all things, it's worth more when it's in the box, I don't actually care about whether it's in the box or not. So I'm going to commit a sin here, and I'm going to open it using this perforated line and a pair of scissors, because open, jerk, there it goes. So there we have it, open, and look at that. That's it. And the way you see it, it's actually minus the razor, so there's a bit of a comparison. That's about the angle you see it from. So I've got some Greeblies that I'm actually 3D printing, because some of the Greeblies that are on here have been identified and some of them haven't. But a user on Thingiverse, whose name is right up there, he made up a file with all of the different parts, and those will do for me to make a replica, because again, this thing is just going to sit on a shelf for me. But yeah, that's Qui-Gon's communicator right there. So now we have... Normally I say keep everything, but in the case of packaging, why? It's not necessary, so that's going to go in the trash. So now we've got all of our 3D printed parts done, all these here, and they're printed in just transparent blue PLA. This is all primed up now, and I didn't realize it when I primed it up. There's a Gillette insignia right there. That's got to go. So I'm going to sand that off, and then I'm going to attach these parts, and we'll come back. You can see what it looks like with all of its bits on it, and then I'll paint it. So here it is with all of its 3D printed parts on it. Your little comms array up here and little trim pieces. Now, like I said, a lot of these things haven't been identified yet. Some of them have. I think these are actually the bases of nut plates. This is another base for a piece of hardware. I'm not sure what these are. And I think this is like these bits here are like electronic components. But if you do one of these, if you decide to make one of these and you use the original razor, on both sides it has this like rubber sort of grip right here. On the back side of it, the side that it goes like this is the back. You'll want to get rid of this little grip here and then fill that in. And I filled it in with some body filler and then sanded it down to 400 grit sandpaper. And then it should be, at this point, it's ready. I got the Gillette logo removed for the most part. And now I'm going to prime it and paint it. And the paint job is extremely simplistic on this thing. It's just a couple of different coats of metallic silver-ish paint and a little bit of weathering, some brass bits and details here and there, and then that's it. That's the whole prop. So yeah, I'm going to prime it now. Here it is all primed up. And real quick, there are actually two versions of this prop, just like almost everything with the most recent Star Wars films. I also apologize, my printer's running in the background. There is a version of this from the Visual Dictionary and then the version from the film. And this is the film version that I've done. The Visual Dictionary version actually only has like a little tiny antenna up here. It doesn't have this whole business going on up here. But I decided to go ahead and go with the one that Liam Neeson uses to tell the folks from Naboo about all of his certain set of skills that he has, or whatever it is he tells them. Doesn't really matter. But now I'm going to paint it, and I'm going to go and start with what I normally use, gunmetal and oily steel as my base, and then go through and weather it. Like I said, this whole thing is almost entirely just essentially metal. No reason to knock those over, but I did. And it's a real simple paint job, and then some washes, a little bit of detailing, and that's about it. It's really, really simple prop. So here we go. So while the gunmetal was actually still a little bit damp, not really wet, I went ahead and I did a dry brush of the oily steel over it, which in effect blended the two colors together, which gives a slightly darker metal finish. And now this is only stage 2 of this process to make this thing look like metal. And yeah, so next. Okay, so what I'm going to do to get the final shininess, the actual metal appearance on this, is actually powdered graphite lubricant, which is just metal powder. And this is normally used for padlocks and door locks and that sort of thing. But if you've ever used powdered graphite lubricant, you know that powdered graphite lubricant is in fact the ultimate lubricant. Wink. But it's also a great way to get metal effect on anything, really. Actually, wood, plastic, metal, if you really want to go that far with it. But to do this, and the only tools you need are your finger, and maybe a cotton swab. But get you a nice little pile of graphite powder right there on your object, and then spread it around gently. Don't rub it in too hard, because you'll pull the paint up from underneath. Now, the reason I went through and painted all this before I did this is because this method, you're not going to get graphite powder on every part of everything. So there needs to be a base coat of metal to make up for that. Now, the more you polish this essentially with your finger, the shinier it's going to get. It's raining outside now, too. Be quite liberal in the application. You can see it's starting to get all shiny. I already did the back. You can see how shiny that is. Quite nice, actually. Yep. And there, all shinied up. This part I'll do separately, but wear rubber gloves when you do this, because graphite powder can stain your skin, and it's not necessarily toxic, but it's not a vitamin either, so you really don't want that leaching into your skin. And now that I'm done with the graphite powder and the paint, I'm going to move on to, you guessed it, Tamiya weathering powders and apparently some masking tape. Go away. Yeah, so I'll be back. Now that the weathering powder's done, I did the little brass bits right here with just some Vallejo brass. And To answer a question that I got from somebody not long ago, I am not actually sponsored by Vallejo or Tamiya. I'm not sure they sponsor anyone. I just use their products because I like them, and that's pretty much a lot of what I own. But it's not the best 3D printed parts in the world because my printer's having issues, but it'll do for me, for sitting on a shelf. But that's done. That's Qui Gon Jinn's Communicator, made from a Gillette women's razor from the 1990s, and some bits and bobs, which, like I said, some of it's electronic parts and little bits of hardware, and not all of it's identified yet. But yeah, there you go. And now I can tell people all about the particular set of skills that I have, and that I will find them. Or whatever it is he says in Star Wars. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe. Consider being a patron. And if you are interested in any of the stuff that I used in the making of this video, check the link below. This stuff, if you are interested in using metallic powders, there's a lot of different types of metallic powders available online. If you want to just experiment without spending a whole lot of money, get some graphite powder from a hardware store or from an auto parts store. It's usually $2 or $3 for a tube of this stuff. And I've had that tube for coming up on a year now. It's a little bit, goes a long way with it. But yeah, there you go. Once again, thank you for watching, and cheers.